Hey guys, welcome back to the Spin. I'm Katie,
I'm SHEIFALIKA.
I'm Jonathan.
I'm Kevin.
and today we will be discussing last night's presidential debate. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. Last night was kind of chaos. It was a lot of talking over each other, a lot of interrupting, a lot of personal attacks. Do you guys think that anybody actually won? Shabalika, what do you think?
As far as who won the debate, I'm going to have to give it to Biden. I think he did a slightly better job of making sure his points came across. I think he earned some good points when he was able to not engage any combative rhetoric towards him or his family, and instead address the country directly looking into the camera. I do think he was able to keep his composure a little better. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give Biden a 8. And I would give Trump maybe like a 6.5.
I don't think nobody won. I think America won. If you want me to be completely honest, because we got to see two presidents at their most vulnerable, at their most unprofessional way possible. So we can see how they handle things in a line of fire. To see them so exposed and to see them so, what's the word? Just immature altogether. I feel like the issues were barely even talked about. They were so busy talking over the moderator, over each other, to the point it's kind of like, what is exactly being discussed? Is the question even actually being answered? Yes, there was some jabs here or there, and definitely Trump had to take Biden out of his element. And in some instances, he did succeed, because there was some clowns thrown, there was some shut ups thrown, there was little things like basically things you tell your little brother or sister when you're trapped in a car on vacation for like 6 hours when they won't leave you alone. So yeah, it's definitely hard to say from my perspective who won.
I mean, for me, I think it's kind of obvious. I think a Biden won. I mean, 6 in 10 people. I think there's this an Ipsos poll. They said that 6 in 10 people said that Biden won, and I don't think that Biden won because he did exceptionally well. I mean, the thing is that I think he did fair. I give him a 6 out of 10. When it comes to Trump, I have to give him 1.5 out of 10 because this was unhinged. It was disturbing. The attacks on election integrity, the fact that he called into question mail-in voting when there's really no evidence for massive fraud when it comes to mail-in voting, when he refused to denounce the Proud Boys, which is a neo-fascist organization, and told them to stand by, which I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. It was a train wreck. So yeah, I mean, I think everyone thinks that his entire performance was kind of a train wreck. I'm almost speechless. Like, it's hard for me to even talk about this. It was disgraceful. Biden kind of lost his cool a little bit, but I mean, he wasn't like nothing out of the ordinary. I think I'd say I'd call him a clown too. So yeah. So I mean, it was an interesting debate. Probably the worst in American history. Probably not American history, but modern history.
So, John, to go back on one of the points that Kevin made, what do you think stand down and stand by meant? Like when Trump said that in response to like if he would condemn white supremacists, what do you think that means?
There's too many contexts there. There's too many contexts to say that basically this was not coincidental. This is definitely. I feel like this is definitely a shout out to is it neo-fascist organization Proud Boys? I'm not entirely familiar with their background because I just heard about them today. But even that threw me for a loop as to what that actually meant, even before I got wind of it. So, to be honest, this president has gone on record, of course, saying there are nice people on both sides. And even when people that are claiming to be, neo-Nazis, even people that are claiming to be outright racist, You know, so it doesn't surprise me at all. It really does not surprise me. It surprises me that it still surprises other people.
We had a president who refused to denounce white supremacy. We had a president who refused to denounce white supremacy, and we had a commander-in-chief that refused to denounce white supremacy. And yes, I stole that from Van Jones, because it's how can you say it better than that? That the president refused to denounce fascism, that he refused to denounce a hateful, ideology. I don't understand, and it's not that I'm surprised. I'm not surprised. He has a history of not saying bad things about people, not necessarily bad things, hold them to account, but you know what I mean. Not saying things about people who support him, but when those people kind of want to, hurt people like Jews and black people and all these different races who aren't white, you kind of have to say, I don't want your support. I mean, you can't help who supports you, but you can tell them, I don't accept your support at all, man. I don't. It's if Trump still wins, I don't know. I don't know what this country's about, really. So I'm almost, like I said, I'm speechless still.
I think that comment, stand back and stand by, I listened to that segment over and over again last night, and when Chris Wallace, the moderator, was trying to give Trump a golden ticket opportunity to stand against hate groups in this country who are responsible for violent rhetoric against Blacks, immigrants, the LGBT community, and the trans community, I think Trump missed that golden opportunity to say, no, that they are wrong. And when Chris Wallace said, will you take this opportunity today, right now, to denounce white supremacists? Trump said, well, give me an example, give me a name, give me a group. And Chris, the moderator, said, white supremacists and white pride militia groups. Trump is the one who said, Proud Boys, stand back, stand by. And then he went on to say, but we need to address the Antifa problem. Well, let's look at the word Antifa once again. Anti-fascists. Well, anti-fascists are against what group? What indoctrination theory? Nazi, neo-Nazi theory, white supremacy. By attacking the Antifa groups, blaming them for standing up to the idea of fascism, by supporting the Proud Boys, mentioning it from his own impulse, that's when I realized that today, when the day after the debate, Trump came out on the front lawn and said, I don't know who the Proud Boys are. Well, sir, nobody mentioned them. You were the one that brought them up. And today, Joe Biden also made an address to the Proud Boys, and he rebuked the stand back and stand by rhetoric that Trump said last night by saying, cease and desist. This is not what our country is about, and you don't have a place in it. And the Proud Boys are an actual hate group in America. They've been around for a while. They're predominantly all white males. And they purport, today they were celebrating, today they are making merchandise that says stand back, stand by, because they were happy to hear Trump address them directly. It empowered them. Would we look at Middle Eastern leaders and say, when they look at Al-Qaeda or ISIS, and if they said to Al-Qaeda or ISIS, do you denounce them? And they said, stand back, stand by, the whole world would have gone into a tizzy. So this comment directly cost Trump a lot of support, even amongst conservatives. And it was a good move for Biden to address it somehow today and say cease and desist. However, it was just a faux pas, and Trump could have, if he had just stopped interrupting and over speaking so much, I think he would have performed a lot better in last night's debate. If he had just been quiet and done less.
So throughout the debate, Trump brought up Biden's son and some unfounded allegations against him a few times. What effect do you think this had, Kevin?
None, to be honest. It's not going to change the standing in the polls. Like, I'm looking at 538 right now. Biden still has, and the 538 average still has a 7.6 lead. When you look at their, their standard, like their, not standards, like their calculations, Biden's chances of winning the Electoral College with a 6 to 7% lead is above 99%. So, he needed a W last night, and if he wanted to get back into it, and he didn't get it, meaning Trump. So, it was, the entire debate was yikes. I think that if there's any night that Trump has completely sunk his reelection chances, I think tonight's it. So yeah, actually, it has an effect. I think it backfired the entire debate, but that specifically, not really. But it gave Biden a wonderful opportunity. It was a golden opportunity, actually. It was a horrible thing to say, but when you look at how Biden handled it, he defended his son, said he's proud of him, said he did have a drug habit, so looked into the camera and said, like many Americans, my son had a drug habit, but I'm proud of him for the progress that he's made in his life, something like that. I was paraphrasing. That was powerful. That was a great moment for Biden. And it showed Trump at a new low. So yeah, I mean, it was a low blow. But I mean, Biden just got up and, dealt with it. It was very impressive. So
I think when Trump interrupted Biden, who was talking about his other son, Beau, at the time, his son who's passed away and was a veteran, Biden was trying to stand up to Trump's claims that his son was a loser, or that, he was standing up for Beau. And anybody that has experienced a loss of a military member in their family understands how incredibly painful it is to lose a loved one who is serving and protecting our country. I think that in the middle of talking about Beau, Trump said, "Oh, I don't know him," but Hunter got kicked out of the armed forces because of his cocaine problem. And that was such a distasteful pivot. It was just tacky and heartless in a lot of ways. I'm very stunned. I think that the rest of the country was stunned. I think veterans were stunned, because PTSD and trauma from combat does sometimes affect your mental health and your physical ability to live a healthy lifestyle. And a lot of veterans develop either opioid addictions, like we see all over our country already, or they develop addictions to drugs. And it's a mental health issue. And by mocking it on a public nationwide stage, and let's be honest, the whole world was watching this debate, by mocking not only a deceased son of a candidate, but then mocking the one who is still alive, I was just stunned. I thought that was incredibly heartless. And a president, if Trump had just once again not spoken up and interrupted, given Biden the chance to possibly put his foot in his mouth or possibly say something. At that point, Biden was pointing at Trump saying, my son's not a loser. If Trump had let him finish, then he could have had probably a little more time to think about a better response instead of talking about this man's children. Biden also did not turn around and say, well, we can talk about your kids, right? Because the children are not running for office. These two grown men in their 70s are running for office, and I need them to act like it, like they're grown and they're fathers. And you don't talk about the loss of a child, which is one of the most excruciating things a parent can go through, first of all, whether it's to drugs or to combat or to anything. It's just not in good taste. Where is the decorum of the presidential office? I want to respect every president our country has, but President Trump makes it really hard to connect with him when he is going after deceased people that can't even defend for themselves. And so my bottom line is, I think it actually did impact. I think it was a standout shock moment that will negatively affect Trump in the polls. And also all those independent voters that may not even feel like voting because maybe this year has been super depressing and hard for everybody to cope with. I bet those people are now looking at the polls like, you know what? I do have to get up out the house and go do something, no matter how hard this is and whether I believe in our democracy or not. I'm going to go vote. And that was something that Biden nailed down later on. Right after that, he looked into the camera and said, vote, just get up and go vote. Whether you believe in this or not, just go do it. And if I lose, I lose. And he accepts the election results. So I think it was tactless of President Trump. I think President Trump could have, once again, came across a lot more presidential if he had not involved family members and children.
This man has done, I think honestly, it was low. But the thing is, I'm not surprised because why? Because this is a tactic that has worked for him so far, so much in the past. This is not the first instance that he's gone after people's family. Remember Ted Cruz's wife? Ted Cruz had to get on record to say, if you talk about my wife again, it's going to be something. This is something that he's done. This is something that he's done and successfully, might I add, gained the seat of president. He's gained the Oval Office doing the same thing he's done, doing the same things he's done. So in a way, it's counterproductive for me specifically because it had nothing to do with the American people. That the debate, his rhetoric, his entire demeanor, everything about him, his performance in general, had nothing to do with the American people. It's to bash every single person that stands in his way of power, and it's worked for him thus far. So he's not going to change something that works in his perspective. So in a way of attacking someone's family, of course, that's low. Everybody has problems. Even this current president himself has honestly been the most scandalous president we've probably ever seen in U.S. history. So to come after somebody's family like that, I'm not surprised because this is something that he's proven to do. And it's not just about his family. He's also talked about Joe Biden's just the fact that he learned his college education and calling him the lowest in his class. Don't talk about being smart. It's constantly demeaning the opposition to the point where they fold. I admire Joe for holding his composition and just, proceeding straight forward. Because it seemed like only one person was talking to the people last night, while the other person was just trying to get into just a verbal altercation with not just his opponent, but the moderator himself. So at the end of the day, this was nothing about his performance, stayed nothing about the American people. Don't get me wrong. It made wonderful television. It made wonderful drama. But for the end game, I think people are tired of it. I think people are honestly tired of it because we're living in a point where people are dying. People are dying across the world, and the U.S. is leading cases in COVID as well as in deaths, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not the time to laugh. It's not the time to joke like it was in 2016. So I don't think that this did anything well for him at all.
All right, well, thank you so much, guys. I think that's all the time we have for today. I'm Katie.
I'm SHEIFALIKA.
I am Jonathan.
I'm Kevin.
And join us next week for another episode of The Spin.